I'm Raymond Grace, and today we are going to learn how to read a dowsing chart, a little bit about dowsing, what you can do with it, what you might not be able to do with it, and just share a bunch of experiences with you. So make yourself comfortable and let's get started. Now, the fact that you're watching this film has an indication that you know something about dowsing or have an interest in it. So let's see if I can help you out. All dowsing is the use of a physical object that tells you what you already intuitively know, but you don't believe you know it. So, let me get the pendulum out here, and let's see if we can start on some things. There's 4 basic movements of a pendulum, and I'm going to hold it up here so you can see, and it is to you and away from you, okay? That indicates a yes. And we'll get a little further into this as we go along. I want to start out slow and progress. And a movement across like this indicates a no. And a circular movement clockwise like this is a movement that is used whenever you are increasing something, such as peace, love, happiness, prosperity, fun. And a counterclockwise movement like this is what happens when you are decreasing something, such as anger, fear, jealousy, grief, or something of that nature. Those are the 4 basic movements of a pendulum. Now, let's talk a little about what dowsing is. The common understanding of dowsing is someone with a forked stick finding a place to drill a well. And that has been a general understanding of dowsing for several centuries. And that's true. But it is very insufficient. If there is something within the human mind that can find a vein of water several hundred feet under the earth, drill a well, verify that the water is there, then there has to be something more than meets the 5 senses. So, it is a part of us called intuition. And dowsing allows us to access our intuition. And there is nothing magical about this pendulum. Now, yes, I use a bullet on a chain for a pendulum. Why? Well, it's a very sturdy thing. It's, well, not totally indestructible, pretty tough. And it has enough weight to it, and it attracts a lot of attention in various restaurants where you want to go in to energize your food, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. So it doesn't really matter what you use for a pendulum. I use a bullet because I like bullets. People buy, we make bullets to sell simply because people buy them. It's simple as that. They like them too. Now some of you don't, so those of you that don't shouldn't be buying one. That's why they make stones and metal ones and various other things, even out of wood or whatever. A pendulum is simply a weighted object on a string or a chain. That's all it is. And I really don't believe there is any magical qualities whatsoever in this bullet. It's simply a bullet. That's one of the biggest mistakes that people seem to make. It's what I call giving their power to the pendulum. Folks, the power is in the mind, not in an object, okay? Now, a lot of folks believe in power objects. I really don't. But I do believe this. I can tell you how much power they have. They have exactly as much as you choose to give them. So some people give a lot of power to a pendulum. Well, I think it's a mistake. But does it really do them any harm? Well, probably not. I don't think it helps them any either. Another thing, don't fall into the trap that you have to have a $100, $200, $300 pendulum with gold in it or some kind of expensive thing to get accurate answers. Now folks, you are not going to get any better answer with a gold-plated pendulum for $300 than you are if you tie a nut on a string. Why? Because the power is not in the pendulum. I don't care what you've heard, I don't believe it. Because there's not any question yet I've tried to ask that I can't get an answer with a bullet. So just don't fall into that trap. These are simply stories to sell expensive gadgets that aren't needed and they really take the power away from your own mind. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell you, you don't even have to have a pendulum. You may need a lot more practice, but it is possible to reach a point that you do not need a pendulum and you do the dowsing simply with your own mind or your intuition, which you may call gut feeling. So that's really the point you might want to reach, is to the point where you need no physical objects or aids whatsoever. However, they are a good training aid, and I use them, and yes, I still carry mine with me. I still use it. But is it an absolute necessity? No. What is a necessity is intent. Intent goes a long ways, and it is probably one most important thing that you can have. Just make sure your intent is clear and you're focusing on what you really want to focus on. So, what all can we do with dowsing? Well, most anything that you can think of, but there are a few exceptions. One is dowsing will not overcome bad judgment. Dowsing will not overcome plain old stupidity. It just don't fix it. If you have made bad choices in your life, ate the wrong food, drank too much whiskey, smoked too many cigarettes, used too many drugs, and wrecked your health, I kind of doubt that you're going to be able to spin a pendulum 3 or 4 times and correct your problem. There's no reason at all that I would believe anything like that. If you got yourself into a mess, you're going to have to get yourself out of it. And you're going to have to make better choices. So dowsing does not override bad judgment. If you've been very financially irresponsible, got yourself in a ton of debt, I doubt seriously if you're going to swing a pendulum a few times and get yourself debt free. That is simply not logical, it's not smart, and it don't work. Now, I hope you folks hear this and don't contact me to get you out of debt that you've maxed out 20 credit cards, because a lot of people have. I've done my best to weed them out, so now I'm making it a lot more blunt, a lot more verbal. Don't ask me to do something stupid like this, because I'm not going to do it. So that is going to weed out a whole lot of emails probably, and that's the plan. However, you can change conditions a lot of times. You can change energy. You can bring about a better probable future. And you say, this sounds like a contradiction. No, not really. It's only if you want to perceive it that way. If you have got yourself in a bad financial condition, you may be able to use dowsing to make better choices, to attract better opportunities, to make more money, to get yourself out of it. If you made a bad choice, married the wrong person, got in a bad relationship, then you're going to have to do something else to get out of it. You can use dowsing to assist you in this, but just swinging a pendulum without any action on your part is just not going to get it for you. So we just want to make it real clear up front. A lot of people have total misconceptions about this kind of stuff. So I tell it real blunt and really to the point. So what can we do with it? Well, I always like to start out showing people how to energize food and drink. And to be able to determine what foods and drink are good for you, what are not, and if you have allergies, how to eliminate them. So what I'd like to do is address this simple little circular chart over here. Now, if you go to my website, RaymondGraceProjects.com, you will find a dowsing chart that is more complicated than this. It is in a little book called Letter to Robin by my friend Walt Woods, who has since passed on, and we have his book available there for you, but his chart is far more complicated than this one. Well, Walt was a scientific-minded person, so he did things a little bit different than me, a construction worker, would do. So I erased a lot of that chart. Now I want to give you a caution here. That chart has the alphabet on it. And for example, at 1 it has A, 2 is B, and 3 is C, all the way around to 26 it's Z. I suggest you never use that. Because what my experience has been is that the people that do will find ways to douse and spell out words. The words will turn into sentences, the sentences into paragraphs, and they seem totally absorbed by this. They get a lot of information, and they usually wind up driving themselves nuts. So you will notice I don't have the alphabet on my chart, and it's for one simple reason, to keep you people out of trouble. So take this as a warning, don't do it. You say, why? I don't really know why. I just have observed the people that did it, and they wound up screwing up their lives, and I don't want you to do it, so that's why I'm telling you. Okay? Now you will notice that diplomacy is not one of my faults. Honesty is one of my virtues, okay? So I tell it blunt and to the point. Alright, so let's take a look at this thing right here. If you were using your dowsing, your pendulum here, moving away from you, and you lay this chart down flat, that would mean that your pendulum would be going up and down like this, okay? That would indicate a yes. Now I would suggest you start by holding your pendulum right in the center of the chart, just like that, okay? And ask it to give you a yes. Now, assuming that the chart was laying down in front of me, which you wouldn't be able to see, the pendulum would be moving like this to give you a yes, okay? You say your hand is moving, you're moving it. No, yes and no. Yes, my hand is moving. No, I am not moving it. The pendulum is moving my hand. So no, I am not faking this at all. This is just the way it happens, okay? Saying the pendulum on a flat surface would be, the pendulum would be moving up and down like this, indicating a yes. And we have yes right up here at the top. Now, if you ask to give you a no, it will go like this. And I suggest you practice along with me. Now, if your pendulum does not move on its own, then move it. That is what we call training the pendulum, okay? So you would say, give me a no, and it would go like this. And if it doesn't go like this, then you physically move it this way. And you mentally say, this is a no. And where you would have also done the same thing with yes, and you would say, this is a yes. Anytime I ask a question and the answer is yes, you will move in this direction. Anytime I ask a question and the answer is no, you will move in this direction. It's that simple. Now, will it take practice? Yes. I had to practice a long time because it did not come easy for me. I was just too stubborn to give up, and I just kept working on it. All right. The next movement is a clockwise circle. Because see, folks, we can not only get yes and no. Actually, yes and no is really insufficient questions, and I would suggest, if there's any possible way, don't ever ask a yes and no question. You say, what am I going to ask? You're going to use this phrase. What is the result of your action on any given subject? For example, you're eating in a restaurant, you're wondering what to order that's on the menu. Ask, what's the result of me ordering this? You will get a numeric value. Now I want to explain that by a numeric value. You will notice that the red on this chart are numbers 1 down through 10 right here. And you will notice the same numbers on that side. You will notice there's a plus sign right here and a minus sign right here. This is the plus quarter of the chart. This is the minus quarter of the chart. You will notice there's a top half and a bottom half. So this is the plus side, that is the minus side, only when you are asking percentage questions do these become percentages. The rest of the time, they're just numbers. We'll get to the reason why they're numbers and what to do with them here in a few minutes, okay? So, remember, this is your percentage scale. That means 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, all the way down to 100% on the plus side. This one, on the other hand, is 10%, 20%, 30%, all the way down to 100% on the minus side. Generally speaking, with few exceptions, whatever is on the plus side is good for you. Whatever is on the minus side is not good for you. And that's why I want to start out dowsing food. So, let me help you out a little bit more here. If you were in a restaurant and you started to douse something and say, what is the result of me eating this food? And it swings over here on the minus side, don't order it. Well, maybe any number of reasons. You might possibly be allergic to it. It might have some kind of germs in it. You might not like the taste of it. You don't need to know all these things. Just don't buy it, okay? If you find something that's about 10%, it's really not that good. But the further this way you go, the better it gets. The further this way you go, the worse it gets. Real simple. So anything that is 100% positive is really good for you. Anything 100% negative very well may kill you. So you see now why you don't ask a yes or no. It's simply an insufficient question. And when you ask what is the result of me eating this certain food or drinking this drink, if it's on the plus side, you know it's yes. If it's on the negative side, you know it's no. But it will also tell you to what degree. And that's where it becomes very valuable. So avoid the yes or no questions. All right? And if you can't do any better, go ahead and ask them, but if possible, avoid them. All right? Now, please understand again, because a lot of folks have trouble with this. This is a percentage scale only when you ask a percentage question. But you can use that percentage scale probably on at least 90% of the questions you're ever going to ask by asking this question. What is the result of my actions of eating this food, drinking this drink, buying this car, asking this person for a date, taking this particular route rather than this one? That right there is going to solve most of your problems and simplify it. See, dowsing has been made way too complicated. I'm the one that makes it simple, okay? I tell people I have to make things simple because watermelon is the biggest word I know. Okay, now let's just stop with the percentage scale right now and talk about numbers, okay? What are the numbers for? This circle here and this circle out here. Counting. Counting what? Well, whatever you want to count. You will notice that this inside circle goes around here to about 29. Right there would be 30. Just assume it's 30, okay? So anything 30 or less, you would count on the inside circle. You say, wait a minute, how am I going to count that? Because your pendulum is going to be moving up and down like this when you start, and when you ask what is the result of something, let's say it's plus 50%, it'll work its way around to 50%, and that's where it'll stop, right there, okay? Let's say you want to get a soft drink, and it's going to work its way around on the negative side, somewhere right in here. At least that's typical of most people, which means it's not good for you. See, if you ask, is a soft drink good for me, you'll get no. If you ask, is kerosene mixed with diesel fuel laced with rat poison good for me, you're going to get a no again, but it's not going to tell you the difference between the two. All right, a soft drink is going to run for the average person about a minus 45 or so, somewhere in this range, depending on that. Diet drinks seem to run about a minus 65 for most of the people I have checked, whereas the kerosene, diesel fuel, rat poison mixture is going to run a minus 100. That'll kill you. So that's how you tell the difference, okay? You folks that are allergic to seafood, you may get a minus 90 to 100 reading on it. Whatever the more severe the allergy, the further it's going to go down the scale in this direction right here, okay? Now, organic carrot juice, if you're assuming you're not allergic to carrots, will probably get a 100. You can test any food, and that's where I suggest you start. Start in your kitchen. What do you have here that's good for you? If you've got something that has nothing but white flour and sugar in it, probably donuts or something, you're going to get a minus reading on it. Most likely, every time. You probably, unless you're a strange exception, you're going to get a minus reading on any kind of soft drinks. It's just that they aren't good for the human body. They're made to sell and not to drink, okay? So, if you ask about buying a car, and you got a plus 80 reading on it, yeah, that's a pretty good vehicle. If you got a minus 80 reading, it may fall apart before you get it home. So you see how beneficial this stuff is, folks? It helps you make a lot of decisions. Do I use it? You bet I use it. I use this to make every major and most minor decision simply based on this chart. What am I doing? I'm accessing my intuition, because really our gut feeling already knows. We don't believe we know, so we need a physical object to move to tell us that, yeah, we're on the right track. Okay, now the rest of these numbers here, let's get back to them. If you were counting something, and let's say the numbers go, this pendulum would go right down here to 16, which also this outside circle has extra 0, which is 160. How do you know if you're reading 16 or if you're reading 160? Well, first off, you ask if it's more or less than 30. If it's less than 30, you know that it's 16. If it's more than 30, it might be 160. Okay, but you say, wait a minute, it might be 1600. Yeah, it might be. In which case, you would need to ask, is it more than 1,000? So you have to have a certain frame of reference for what you are dowsing. Is it more than 30? Is it less than 1,000? Or let's just say less than 400. Why 400? Because you will notice the chart number right here is 390. Right there would be 400. Anything up to 400 can be measured on this chart. If it's more than 30, less than 400, you would measure it on the outside circle around here. Anywhere in there, less than 400. What do you do if it's more than 400? Add more zeros. Real simple. Let's say it's somewhere between 400 and 1,000. Okay, what you can do is simply add more zeros. This could become 100, 200, 300, 400. Or it could become 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Or it could become 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million. That you have to determine. So it's a simple matter to ask, what range of number am I selling in? Am I dowsing in here? Because a lot of times if people want to sell a house, they ask me, how much should I price it for? Well, give me an idea. You know, do you have a $300 shack or tent in the backyard? Or do you have a $5 million mansion? Give me a starting point. Then I can probably figure it out for you and get relatively close on it. Sometimes I get right on the money, and then sometimes I only get close. So the way I would ask that is, what is the largest fair price that I can reasonably expect to get? That's the way I would word the question. Now, you may have a house that sells for $300,000. There might be somebody somewhere in some part of the world that would give you $500,000 for it. But how long is it going to take you to find them, if ever? So that's why you ask the question, what is the highest fair price that is reasonable to expect? Or words to that effect. So how you ask the question is going to pretty much determine your success. If you ask the wrong question, you're not going to get the right answer. So that is, you really need to practice this, and actually you need to be real specific a lot of times. I'll give you an example. It used to be, before I had a list of things and a chart and all that, I would work on a person and I'd think, well, I don't know what else to do for them, so I would ask, do I need to do anything else for this person? I would invariably get a no. And then I'd think of something else, and I'd think, well, why did I get a no? And someone pointed out, you didn't need to do anything for them. They needed you to do something for them. So make sure you think your questions out very clearly. Now, I don't know if there's a whole lot more to say on this or not. Unless I just repeated what I just said, and I don't think there's any reason to do that. Just play the DVD again and you'll get it again. So let's start out with dowsing food. In the audience, I always say, how many of you people are allergic to something? And sometimes most hands will go up. I will say, well, give me the name of the food. And they will, and then I will douse to see what it is. Sometimes I get a 0, which will be right here. It's neither good for them nor bad for them. Sometimes people may tell me they are allergic to wheat, and I might even get a positive reading on wheat. And I say, no, you're not. But if I ask, are they allergic to the dioxin that was sprayed on the wheat, that changes the whole picture. They're not allergic to wheat, they're allergic to the chemical spray. Same thing with corn, same thing with any kind of grain, lots of fruits, vegetables. You may not be allergic to the food itself. What you may be allergic to is the dye that used to color it, the herbicide or pesticide that was sprayed on it, or anything like that that would affect it. You might not be allergic to beef. You may be allergic to the hormones that the cow was given. You may not be allergic to milk. You may be allergic to the hormones that was in the cow. Okay, now you notice that down here at the bottom, in blue, are the numbers 18 to 22. Well, there's a reason for that. I have measured something called frequencies. Now, let me give you a definition, and I got this from a physicist, and it's the best definition I've been able to get. The term frequency is the speed at which an element vibrates. The word energy is the amount of good that can be done. Now, I use those two words a lot in my work, and a lot of times folks confuse them. They want me to check the frequency of something, when in reality what they want me to do is check the energy of it. So, just let me repeat. Frequency is the speed at which an element vibrates. Energy is the amount of good that can be done. So I started checking something called frequency. You see, there is an ideal frequency for each race of humans, for each species of animal, for each species of plant, and for each disease. There's also a frequency for your home, there's a frequency for your job, or your business, and there may be 1,000 other things that I haven't discovered yet. But what I have discovered is more than the average person knows about. So 18 to 22 is where diseases vibrate. So why did I put that on there? Well, if you have a business, and it's vibrating right here, which I call a frequency of death, it's right in the center of the disease range, you're probably not making any money. So what do? Well, you put it on the proper frequency. See, we as human beings with an intelligent mind have the ability to change frequencies of something. At least to a degree we do. How do we know? Well, we counted the money. Okay? If a business wasn't making any money here, and we put it on a frequency that would make money, and sales picked up, and people made more money, that was pretty good evidence. We've been able to be fairly successful at this. So, just wanted to tell you that's why that's in blue right there. Now, any disease you want to check, and your findings may not totally agree with mine, but every simple disease I've ever checked on, found out it vibrated somewhere right in here. Well, I use a term, and I call it scrambling the frequency of a disease. And it's just like I have worked with cleaning up water. I scramble the frequency of chlorine, fluoride, harmful chemicals, adjusting the frequency of water. Well, we can scramble the frequency of a disease and adjust it to the ideal frequency of our body. You say, well, what's that frequency? Well, it depends on where your ancestors came from. If your ancestors came from Western Europe, according to my dowsing, you don't have to agree with me, the frequency is about right here, about halfway between 0 and 1. I call it 0.5. Now, if your ancestors came from Africa, Middle East, Asia, then you're going to vibrate at a different frequency. It's not your fault, it's not good or bad, it's just what it is. For example, animals, each species have their own different frequency. A jackrabbit is a different vibration than an elephant. A pig is a different vibration than a squirrel. So, what if you're working with your pets, farm animals or whatever, you always want to make sure they're on the right frequency. You say, how do I know? Well, you don't have to be real knowledgeable on numbers. All I do is ask that they be put on the right proper frequency. And I just hold the pendulum up, and let's say I'm working on a herd of cows for some rancher. I will say, and if I am, if the person's contact me for help with his cows or hogs or whatever it is, I can almost guarantee you that they will be on the frequency of disease down here. Because if he didn't have a problem, he wouldn't be contacting me. The fact that we got a problem tells me they're on the wrong frequency. So what I simply do is say, I want to put this whole herd of cows, pigs, whatever it is, on the proper frequency. Now the pendulum will go counterclockwise. Why? Because it seems like that the frequency never gets too low, it always gets too high. So you want to lower it. If you want to lower anything, like anger, fear, grief, whatever it is, it'll go counterclockwise. If you want to increase something like peace, love, happiness, prosperity, fun, it'll go clockwise. Pretty simple, really. Okay, so you do not have to know which vibration your Cocker Spaniel is, or your cat, or any other thing. A Cocker Spaniel is probably on a different frequency than a bird dog. A beagle is on a different frequency than a wolfhound. Why? Because they're different kinds of dogs. Okay. Now I know you're wondering, what about people of mixed breeds? Well, I don't know. I never got into that because I didn't see a reason to. You can ask it yourself and find out, but let me give you a hint. The frequencies of the humans that I found on this planet vibrate from about 0.5 right here to 3. Right in this range right here. Now I'm not going to get into where Asian people are, where African people are, Native Americans, Irishmen, and all that. Why? Because no amount of stirring makes muddy water clear. So sometimes it's this thing is giving people too much information. So let's just keep it simple. You simply say, I want to put the person or myself on the proper frequency. Now I'd like to get you started, and I have every reason to believe I can do this through this film. Those of you who are watching this that desire to do so, like to participate here, I want to put your body on the proper frequency, okay? And it's going to go counterclockwise. And yes, I'm filming this in May of 2014, and you may play it several years from now, and it'll still work, because I first filmed something like this, about 8 years ago, and it still works. What are we doing now? Well, we have better sound equipment, we have better cameras, and thought we could do a better job, so that's what we're doing. Okay, and it stopped. Now, it's that simple, folks. I don't know who you are, where you are, what race you are, and it doesn't matter. My intent was to put you on the proper frequency through the means of this film. Okay? Now, let's get back here to the story on food. When my kid April was about 11 years old, one day she said, Daddy, can I have she wanted a soft drink. And I said, well, I already checked it out, and the effect of that upon your body is a minus 45. See, it's right there, right between 40 and 50 on the minus side. But tell you what I'll do. You're a really smart kid, so here's a can. Don't open it now. You take my pendulum, and if you can get it to a plus 70 right here, you can have it. Otherwise, I'll give you a glass of water. This little kid takes it over there, and she sits there real intently. I'll never forget the look on her face. And she sat there very intently and run that pendulum over top of that can of soft drink. And I watched her do that, and I could tell she really wants that. She's really going to do this. Well, she brings it and hands it back to me, and I check to see what the effect is on her body, plus 90. So I thought, well, that's interesting. And a few days later, I saw her eating a chocolate chip cookie. And I said, April, I didn't see you raise the energy of that cookie. She said, I don't have to. That's why. I have programmed myself that everything I like to eat or drink that comes in my energy field is automatically good for me. And that has been, how many years ago? 19 years ago. And it's been about 19 years ago. I've never been able to prove her wrong. And I'm thinking, if an 11-year-old kid can change the energy and the effect of a soft drink upon her body, I can take the same principle and eliminate food allergies. So, when I'm going through the class, I find out what people are allergic to. And we've had people that were allergic to chocolate. They hadn't had a chocolate bar in 15 or 20 years. We find certain people that are allergic to shellfish, like shrimp. One person was so allergic to fish that if he even touched a fish just with his finger, he would go into shock. Well, that day, it was Ozark Research several years ago, and we were having catfish at the dining hall that day. And I told him, I said, you better be careful. I don't want to get you in trouble. If I can't help you, I sure don't want to hurt you. So you better take it easy on this. Well, he didn't eat a piece of fish. He ate a whole platter full. Never bothered him. Ran into him about 7 years later. Ate all the fish he wanted, anytime he wanted. Never had another problem. Now this story has been repeated, maybe to a lesser degree, a little bit less dramatic than this, several hundred times. People go out and eat whatever they've been allergic to, they seem to be fine. Now, if a person is deadly allergic to something, I'm not going to tell them to eat it because they might be an exception, and if I can't help you, I'm not going to hurt you. So, how does it work? Probably by intent. And how do I do it? Well, I want to do it for you. Whatever you folks listening that they're allergic to, I want you to focus on it, whatever it might be. And what I want to do is neutralize the negative effect of this food upon your body. Food or drink, whatever it happens to be. And now, this may spin quite a while because the length of time and the velocity at which a pendulum spins indicates the amount of energy required to correct the problem. And that's what's happened. All right, and that's it. Now, if you were to check 5 minutes ago, as you watch this, what was the effect of whatever the food was on your body, I bet you'd get a negative reading in here somewhere. If you will check it now, I bet you'll get a positive reading. You say, what happened? Well, you're not allergic to it anymore. Now, you can question this stuff to no end, and probably never get satisfied on it. Or at least some people can. The way I've heard it put, and I really can't improve on it, to those who believe, no explanation is necessary. To those who do not believe, no explanation is possible. So I kind of leave it at that. You either take it or leave it, okay? If you believe it, it'll probably work for you. If you don't believe it, it probably won't. Which way are you better off? Kind of a simple question, isn't it? Okay. So let's see, where else are we going here? Now, what I've done, folks, whether you quite grasp it or not, I have just showed you how to eliminate food allergies. At least I believe I have. You may be one of the exceptions that it didn't work. I would guess we've had 90% results, maybe better. But every now and then we find somebody that absolutely nothing's going to work for them. Those people just exist. I hope you're not one of them, but if you are, then there's probably not anything I can do about it. But overall, we've solved a whole lot more problems for people out there, and I don't reckon we've caused any problems. Now, let's talk about using this for various types of investments. You want to get in the stock market? Well, I wouldn't suggest that you watch this film and then bet the farm on the stock market with Dowsing. I wouldn't suggest that at all. However, if you are already into buying stocks, I would suggest that you at least use your Dowsing to help make decisions. I do. And do I win? Yep. Have I won all the time, every time? No. I just won most of the time. That's the object of the game, is to win more than you lose. I wish I could tell you that this has always been perfect, but that's simply not true. There's been times I have been wrong. And I just like to tell that right up front. Why was I wrong? I don't know. Maybe I asked the wrong question. Maybe I didn't understand the answer. Or maybe I was just plain wrong. So people get the impression when I start telling them about all the things I've done, they think that I have been right every time all my life. And that's simply not true. I've just won more than I've lost. Okay. If you are going to buy a vehicle, I would suggest the first thing you do is maybe get the yellow pages or look up on the internet and find out the dealers in your area. I would check the integrity of each one, and I would go to the one with the highest integrity. Um, I had one friend who wanted to trade cars, and he called he emailed one morning telling me he had found a car that he wanted. It cost $17,000. It was a used car, and he was going to go buy it. And I said, no, don't do that. He said, why? I said, well, because these people are thieves. How did I know that? Well, I checked their integrity, and it was 10%. That means 90% of what they told you was a lie. So I said, give me the name of all of the car dealers within a 50-mile radius of where you live, and I'll tell you where to buy your car. Well, he gave me, it was either 6 or 8 dealers. I only found one honest one in the bunch. Now, I'm not bad-mouthing car dealers. I'm just telling them the way it is. And I said, go there. Those people will treat you fair, and they do have the car you want at a cheaper price. And he writes back, he was so delighted. He went to find it. I went to that dealership, and sure enough, they had almost an identical vehicle. It was, I think, $14,000. And he said, I'm going to buy it. I says, no. Offer them $13,000. They'll take it. And sure enough, they did. I saved a man $4,000 on car trade that day. Now, did I take advantage of anybody? I don't think so. You see, folks, I'm in the business of doing business with honest people and putting thieves out of business. So learn who the thieves are. Don't do business with them. Simple as that. Do business with honest people. Now, you say, but you cost that car dealer $1,000 because he was going to buy it for $14,000 and you got it for him for $13,000. That's true. I think it was overpriced to start with. And what I did, I said, what is the lowest fair price they will take? And this was on thousands. You see, pendulum was going up and down like this. I said, and now they had 3 zeros of this, okay? That means 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, down here to 13,000. Okay. I said, what is the lowest fair price this dealership will take? And the pendulum works its way around. It stops on 13,000. That's how I knew. And did it work? Yep, sure did. My friend sure didn't complain. Now, the question always invariably comes up, how do you know if it's a plus 100% or a minus 100%? Because your pendulum's going this way. That's a good question. It's an easy one to answer. Your pendulum starts out like this. If it works its way around to the right, it's a plus 100%. If, however, the pendulum starts this way and works its way around to the left, it's a minus 100%. Now, a pendulum swings in 2 directions, forward and backward. So please don't get confused and think you're getting something like 25% down here, when in reality you're getting a plus 50%. I mean, I've had people argue with me till I finally just gave up on them. They say, but my pendulum is swinging down here to 25, so it's 25%. No, folks. If you ask a percentage question, the only place you're going to get an answer is on the percentage scale. If you're going to look for apples, you know better than to look on pear trees, okay? So, this is a forward swing, this is a backward swing. And yes, the person was right. The backward swing was at 25, but he was reading the wrong side of it. I read into this a lot, so I do my best to make it as clear as possible. Read the forward swing of the pendulum. Don't worry about where the backward swing goes to. And that's true all the way around the chart. See it go up and back, up and back, up and back, up and back, all the way around, and then it settles and it stops. When it does that, the answer would be 15 right here, whatever you were looking for. If it was the price of a car, number of people coming to a party, whatever. You can use this to measure practically anything. Now, let me give you a caution here. All dowsing is now. Not in the future, not in the past, but now. Now, you can go back in the past and douse the future at any given date. And I suggest you practice that. The problem with dowsing the future is a lot of stuff can change. That's the problem with dowsing stocks. If you may be getting a good buy on a stock today, but whether you make money depends on where the price is when you sell it. So there's just a lot of stuff there. And what the price is when you sell it depends upon the mass consciousness of people. If something happens that creates a fear panic, then stock prices can drop like a rock. So timing is everything. You've got to douse when to buy, and you've got to douse when to sell. And I'll be very upfront and tell you that dowsing to get timing has really not been that accurate. So don't bet more than you can afford to lose on this stuff. All right, you wish to hire a helper, employee or whatever. Among the things I would ask is, what is their integrity? What is their level of loyalty? What is their level of dependability? And if they've got 10% integrity, 0 loyalty, 15% dependability, you don't want them working for you. You don't even want them setting foot on the place. Okay? You also want to know, are they compatible with you and your company and your other employees? So if you douse compatibility and get a -50, you know you're going to have to fight, have a fight on your hands every day. So these are just plain old simple logical questions you need to ask if you're going to stay in business. Okay? Another thing you can do is check travel routes. There's probably more than one way to get somewhere. So whenever you're traveling, you pick out a general route and then you ask, what is the overall result of me taking this route? If you get a bad reading, like a negative reading, the next question may be, how much of this is due to the time I would be traveling? See, traveling somewhere on a sunny day is going to be totally different from driving through a tornado. So you always want to ask, what's the problem? Is it weather related? Is it traffic related? Do the police have a whole bunch of radar set up? Then they're going to get anybody that's 1 mile over the speed limit because they need the money? There's a number of questions to ask on this. Find out where the problem is. And then do whatever you can to either eliminate it or take another route. Now, one of the standard questions that I use goes like this. What is the percentage of negative probable futures? Whether it's a business deal, whether it's a vacation, whether it's buying a vehicle, whatever it is. What is the percentage of negative probable futures? That is, what's the chances that something can and probably will go wrong? If you get like 90, 100% negative probable futures, you know you've got a disaster on your hands, okay? Ideally, you want no negative probable futures. Now, this is what you do. You check everything that you can possibly think of, and you eliminate it. You say, how do I eliminate it? Well, if it's a trip you're going to make, and I'll give you an example. I called one of my business associates one day down in Dallas, Texas. He said, boy, I'm glad you called. I'm just heading out to Denver. I'm going up Interstate 35, hit 70 west. I said, don't go that way. He said, why? I said, I don't know, but I got a bad reading on it because I got something like I don't remember the exact figure, like about a -60 reading. I said, I can't tell you what's wrong. I don't know. But don't go that way. Do you have another route? He said, well, yeah, I've got one, but it's not interstate. I said, well, go that way. Sometime later, I called him back. He said, boy, I'm glad you called that day. He said, because the route I was going to take, they had a flood and closed the interstate. Well, now, I didn't logically know that. But I knew it wasn't a good way for him to go. So I said, take another road, which he did, and everything went fine. He said, I drove through sunshine into our trip. Well, that's a whole lot better than driving through rainstorms and having the road flooded out. So, any number of times I have done this, choosing a route and found out that the other route either had rainstorms or something bad went wrong, maybe car wrecks, had the roads blocked up and whatever. So yeah, this is something that I can say, yes, this has worked very well for me. Another thing, I have a affirmation that I pass out with all my handouts at the class, and one of those affirmations is, I am aware of all danger to myself, my family, friends, and I take the appropriate action to avoid the danger. And I was down in Florida last year, and one morning, all at once, I got to thinking, I need to call my friend Jeff. And I did, and I said, where are you? And he says, I'm driving into West Virginia in a snowstorm. I said, well, get off the road as quick as you can, because there is a disaster up the road in front of you. Now, I don't know what it is. It does not appear to be dangerous for you, but it is very inconvenient. He said, well, there's right here's the exit. It's probably the last chance I'm going to have, so he gets off the road. He called him back that afternoon. The whole mountainside slid off and blocked the interstate right a few miles in front of him. That was the last opportunity he had to get off the interstate. Timing is everything, folks. Programming is very important. All programming is putting a suggestion in your mind that to achieve a positive future. That's really all it is. And my suggestion was, I'm aware of any danger to myself, family, friends, and country. I take the appropriate action to avoid the danger. Okay? All right, now, okay folks, this pretty much covers the chart, how to use it, how to ask questions, and what you can do to stack the deck in your favor. Actually, that's what I call my class anymore. I don't necessarily call it dowsing so much. It's more like using dowsing for self-empowerment and stacking the deck of life in your favor. We're all down here on planet Earth, third rock from the sun, and the place was a mess when we got here. It still is. So I feel like we need to do everything we can to stack the odds in our favor, and this dowsing is certainly one of the ways of doing it. So that's about pretty much wraps it up. Thank you for watching. I hope this saves you a lot of trouble, makes your life easier, and I hope it makes you some money. Thank you.
There's many a man who would change the whole land if he could just find the right way. There's many a girl who's in search of life's pearls, struggles the whole livelong day. But the water is flowing, the wind is a-blowing, the earth she is gentle and kind. The time isn't near and there's no need for fear, the answer is inside your mind. Change it, rearrange it, the future is yours, can't you see? The gifts that are offered are just part of your reality. Just broaden your distant horizons and we'll all be free. Just do what you do and you'll get what you get. That's one of life's lessons I've learned. If you keep courting pain and you play with the fire, that's one easy way to get burned. But the water is flowing, the wind is a-blowing. We can change this old world for the good. We can stop all the crying, the suffering and dying, if we all just do as we should. Change it, rearrange it, the future is yours, can't you see? The gifts that are offered are just part of your reality. Just broaden your distant horizons and we'll all be free. Just broaden your distant horizons and we'll all be free.